Hi, I'm Sanjana, a lead designer at Everything Design, and today I will be doing a website audit for Temporal.io. The main objective of this exercise being seeing if it's an all round effective communication piece that gets across the message with the help of the website alone, and parameters such as messaging, visual design, UI, UX, content framework, and information architecture. So to jump right into it, Temporal.io is meant for developers. So there is some amount of technical expertise that you need to understand it to a deep level. But today we will try to understand it just with the help of the website and see if we are able to grasp what they do with just that. To begin with, they have done a recent refresh of their website. So the hero section has changed. They have a very interesting take on the hero section where they're going off and defining a technical terminology. So they say what is durable execution and who it's for. So it is for developers. That is made very clear. So not just in the wording that they say in the copywriting, but also in the visuals that they use, which is going to be very code heavy. Dashboards that have code or some workflow that is being. Apart from the definition of what durable execution is, Temporal also explains what temporal is in one sentence and in context with durable execution. So, of course, they're hooking the visitor, they are stopping them in their tracks and figuring out, okay, what is this that they're talking about? The whole page's narrative has changed given the new terminology that they're bringing across. So, it is putting them at a new horizon, like a rising star of the hour. And that's the way that they are positioning themselves now in a very subtle manner at that. So, with the visuals on the side, it's one decision that the creators have taken, which is that it's not taking away from the content, which in itself takes a little bit of time or cognitive effort to wrap your mind around because you're, of course, expecting, like any other B2B website, some brand promise or value proposition that is going to be told to you and what you have to understand and read more about. But here, instead of the visual being very all consuming or something that's very larger than life, they have gone ahead with a pseudo workflow that they show, which of course plays by itself, but we also have manual control over it. Again, it's clear, it's for developers. They would understand it much more at a detail than I would at this given juncture. The CTAs for the hero section are what is temporal and how it works. So they're not letting go of that fact that people may not know what temporal is and addressing that with the help of a CTA that can be, of course, found at the navigation bar as well, but just giving them that workflow. So instead of a common sign up or get the product or look at the pricing, they're talking about how to get to know temporal better. So that's a good way of applying CTAs. Then we have the customer logos in a marquee, and of course, something that builds credibility right below the fold or right at the fold to some extent, yes. Then below the fold, we go into more value framing sentences and copywriting. So the messaging here starts to become enmeshed with what temporal is going to be delivering and how durable execution falls into that narrative. So it's like a hand-in-hand messaging that they're trying to do. So quote, business logic, not plumbing. It's a big promise that they're giving. What is the value that's being framed? Something that Gartner has been talking about in their B2B buying process. What is that value that users eventually will be benefiting from by using temporal and how durable execution plays a part in that. There's some amount of social proof that is being provided with GitHub stars right here, which you can go ahead and engage with, look at what other people are saying about it. And then we follow it up with the current scenario. What is the status quo that is being challenged by temporal? So what if you could avoid the complexity of failure and focus on only what matters? So it is something that, of course, would hit a nerve with developers or technical experts. And if this is something that they're trying to tackle and that's what they have been struggling with, then there are immediately 3 features that Temporal offers that can mitigate that for them. And it's very skimmable content. So even if I were to read, ship more features faster, code more reliable, systems gain visibility into execution, I would have enough information as a technical expert and be able to move on with the rest of the page to gather more relevant information. Then a contrasting section, which is talking about 100% open, 100% open source. So This is also something I believe is important for creators in the development or the tech side of things, where open source, of course, is important, but at the same time, they're talking about their MIT license and how it's being endorsed by world's best companies. So, some amount of social proof in a different angle, where you can join their Slack community or view the repo. So, that, and of course, attention is being brought to the section with the help of the gradients. An interesting section which I believe works very well with B2B and especially technically oriented products and services is a section which talks about without and with the said product or service. So without temporal and with temporal, what is the scenario and how is it going to get more of a context for the visitor of the website, eventual prospect or a lead that is coming onto the website. So 5 scenarios that they have given with their features that give quite a lot of detail with the help of the technical diagrams, which are done pretty straightforward. It's not animated or motion led, which would have helped. This section really works well when we're able to provide more context. It's an interesting way of putting across information that is very easy to consume and immediately compare what is the current scenario and how temporal mitigates those struggles. Another interesting section and interesting copywriting that comes our way here is temporal works the way you work in your language and in your application. So more value framing comes into picture here. So ability to work the way that you work in your language and in your applications means different values and outcomes for different developers. So making it apparent right on the homepage it's done well. This is something that the developers would be concerned about, mitigating that concern right away in a very creative manner, and especially writing make sure that, okay, beyond this point, they don't have to worry about it. Or if they felt, okay, up until now, it looks so good, I require all of these features and this capabilities, but what about, will it support Java? Will it support Python? So having that a clear section, actually 3 sections, makes it much more effective in communication. Then as we go forward, we have some social proof again. So they have done a good job of injecting social proof in very subtle ways and of course non-subtle ways, which is testimonials right there. But with the GitHub stars, viewing the repo, the Slack community right out there. So it's a good way of showing that socially we are adept and that you can join us in much more easier ways and different ways as well. And some big companies that they're showing the testimonials for, very strongly worded testimonials which do the job very well. So clearly the visual designer didn't have to do much. They left it to the copy within those testimonials to do the talking, and that decision making is also important. Then we have some temporal cloud related stuff. Again, if you wanted to learn more about temporal cloud, or you had some ideas about, okay, how is it going to run for you, that is again mitigated over here. You can sign up for the cloud. It's another service that Temporal provides. Then we come to another contrasting gradient section, which is build invincible apps. Now, making that big promise, usually this would come onto the hero section rather than on the close to the footer or towards the end of the page. But again, they're leaving the visitor with a message which is larger than life. And that is something that B2B companies are now doing as a trend shift. So a lot of these companies talk about the big promise that they provide with their services or their products and what benefit lies for the prospective customer. So that is very interesting. Again, there are no bombardment of CTAs to sign up, to look at pricing, to get a demo, all of that. Of course, this product works differently, definitely, but yeah, it's treating the visitor with some integrity, I would say. Then, of course, the footer. Another interesting trend that is coming about is unending footers. We have this thing where it keeps going, and then either there's a newsletter CTA, a podcast CTA. Viz.io also does something similar where as you keep scrolling, you think it is getting over the page, but there's a CTA for to be seen right at the bottom. Overall, in terms of messaging, it's quite clear. It is very skimmable. The visual design also makes sure that it is in terms of the hierarchy. So the typographic hierarchy is really beautiful. You can scroll through the website and still have a fair idea of what's happening, especially if you're an expert. There's an outer space theme that is being followed. Personally, on the hero section, the contrast is a little bit less. So this makes it a little difficult to read, especially the first time that you come onto it. I would definitely increase the contrast here, or either darken the background, or experiment with a few other colors of the type. Then, as we go forward, vibrant colors and treatments, of course, the being used to their advantage wherever sections need to be called out or brought attention towards. So, the open source section, of course, and we have the testimonial, and then the big brand promise section as well. Overall, the layout is very simple, and which makes it highly responsive. So, this is very interesting. Since the layout is that simple, everything stacks very perfectly, and there is no need to skip out on any of these either design elements, information, or functionalities. So it is quite well done in that regard. So the visual design or the graphic design part of things help enable that, although it may seem like it becomes in the background, but it's not. It's really enabling the content to be disseminated very well. Now, one challenge that these with and without sections pose is how do we show that easily on a mobile screen? So when we are on the desktop, it's quite easy to read, to absorb, and to understand, because with and without quite sit on the same section. But when it comes to mobile, it becomes difficult to fit everything into one scroll, definitely. But also, how do you make it so that the tabs become easy to navigate across? This is different from what I have come across with sections like these, which have a lot of content and are also tabs. So it is well done. You get all of the information in a singular scroll, more or less. But also, if you are reading along, there shouldn't be any issue in reading and understanding the content. That definitely was one section that I was waiting to look at how it looks in a responsively scaled down screen. Some amount of the visual design definitely reminded me of GitHub and their outer space theme on their website. But interesting, there's a retro gamified look to it, which is, of course, vibrant and eye-catching. Icons and the colors that are being applied on them make it, again, easily skimmable. Going through it is much, much easier than the previous website. Colors are a nice addition to the overall look and feel. So yes, that's mainly about the website. In terms of their information architecture, they've broken it down quite well. So the hero section defines a new term, correlates to temporal as a whole. Then as we go forward, there's value framing, the big promise, and the social proof within it, which is very subtle but very well done. Current status quo and how 3 features can combat that. Commitment to open source and the attention that is being brought to it. The with and the without section, with temporal and without, what are the scenarios, how it fixes the current scenario. Then ease of use and adopting temporal testimonials, again with the social proof, temporal cloud and the ease of signing up with it. Then the big promise, and that is reiterated with supporting content. If the visitor wants to go further into it, deep dive and look at some more information, they can definitely do that. Yes, it's a highly technically oriented website. You need to have some technical understanding of the product or development as a whole to be able to fully grasp what they're saying. But even as a layperson, the copy is not very complex, so we can still read and get some sense of it, and of course go further and Google or explore temporal and figure out what it is that I want to or I need to understand. So yes, as a communication piece, it does its job well. It's clarifying who it's for, so then there's no doubt who should be actually coming onto here or who needs to help some other person in another role to be looking at the website or understanding the product.